morning student. I am Dr. Kruti Jethwa, Associate Professor from Sri Shankaracharya Technical Campus, Bhilai. The course name is Fundamental of Building Construction. This is week number 9, lecture number 27, and the topic is soaring and underpinning. First of all, soaring and underpinning are essential techniques in construction to ensure the structure stability and safety. They are used during the construction, renovation or repairs to support the building, trench and other structures. Shoring. Shoring is provided in the construction to avoid the hazards to the structure, man and materials. Underpinnings involve the placing of a new foundation below at the present one or a strengthening the present foundation. Now shoring. The exact definition is this. Shoring refers to the process of providing temporary supports to the structures that are in danger of collapsing or during the construction and excavation activities for the following purpose. First, to prevent collapse of a structure during the excavation, to support unstable walls or other structural elements, to ensure safety during the construction or a repair work. Application for excavation, building renovation, structural alteration and the trench work. This is the photograph of shoring. First photograph showing the modern shoring for the trench, and the second shoring it's dead shoring which will support here the wall structures. Shoring design consideration. So which factors we have to consider for the designing? The first, load calculation. Assess the load acting on the structure including the soil pressure, live load and the dead load. Material selection. Choose appropriate materials used on the load bearing capacity, environmental condition and duration to support. Installation methods. Step by step process for installing the shoring including anchoring, bracing and checking the alignment. Safety precaution. Regular inspections, load monitoring and adherence to the safety standards. So, these are the shoring design criteria. Shoring techniques. 3 techniques are used. First is traditional timber shorings. Use of wooden beams, raised planks to create a temporary framework. It's a simple and cost effective but less durable. Steel shoring. It utilizes adjustable steel props, frames and struts. Steel shorings is preferred for its strength and reusability. Hydraulic shoring involve the use of hydraulic jacks and struts to provide quick and adjustable supports. It's often used in trenching. Requirements of shorings. The following are some of the requirements of the shoring. First, to repair a crack on the wall due to unequal settlement of a foundation, to give support to the walls that are dangerous or likely to become unstable because of the subsidence, bulging or leaning. If the wall show sign of bulging out due to bad workmanship, when an adjacent structure is to be dismantled. For avoiding failure of a sound wall caused by removal of underlying supports during the demolition work, to give supports to the adjacent building or structures. Types of shorings. There are 3 types of shoring. First is a dead shoring, rack shoring. Rack shoring also have 2 types, single rack and double rack. And third type is flying shoring, which also have a single flying and the double flying. We will see one by one. First, a rack shoring. It is also known as an inclined shoring. Rack shoring is used to support any walls that aren't structurally sound within a building. Using cleat, needle, sole plate, inclined members, racing or a wall plates, they helps to keep the wall intact to minimize any damage to existing building or a structure. It is used to transfer a floor and the wall load to the ground utilizing the sloping strut and the racks. Rackers must be positioned correctly so that they are capable of receiving maximum wall and floor loads. the few parts. So, inclined member which give lateral supports to the walls is called rack. This rack shores consist of wall plate, rack, needle, cleats, racing and sole plates. A wall plate, a 20 to 25 centimeter wide and 5 to 7 centimeter thick, is placed vertically along the face of the wall and is secured by the means of needles. These needles are 10 cross 7.5 centimeter, penetrate the wall by about 10 to 15 centimeter. In order that the needle do not get sheared off due to the thrust of a rack, the needles are further strengthened by the means of cleats which are nailed directly to the wall plates. The rackers about against the needle is in a such a way that the center line of a rackers and the wall meet at the floor level. Thus, there will be one rack corresponding to each floor. These rackers are interconnected by the strut to prevent their buckling. An inclined sole plate is embedded into the ground on which the feet of a rackers are connected. The feet of a rackers are further stiffened near the sole plate by the means of hoop iron. The wall plate distribute the pressure to the wall uniformly. The based on the requirement of a rack, it may classify as a single rack shore and the double rack shore. This is the photograph of single rack shore and double rack shore. In this you can see on the wall there is a wall plate which is also supported by the cleats and needles, and one rack is provided which is raised at the center, and at the bottom it is a single space or a sole piece. And in what is the difference between double rack and single rack? You can say that in the double rack 2 racks are provided, and in single rack only single racks is provided. Rest of the parts are almost same. The factor to consider for a rack shoring are: the rack should be inclined to the ground by 45 to 75 degree. The length of a rack can be reduced by introducing rider racks. The rack should be properly raised at intervals. The center line of a racks and the wall are maintained at the same level of floor. The sole plate should be properly embedded into the ground at an incline and should be proper section. The wedge should not be used on the sole plates. This is the rack shoring actual photograph. The right hand side photograph show the single rack shoring and the left hand side photograph show the double rack shorings. Second type of shoring, that is flying shoring. The flying shoring is also known as a horizontal shoring. It is support system that provide the horizontal support to the parallel party wall when the removal or collapse of the intermediate building take place. These are most often used for supporting temporarily parallel walls of a 2 adjacent building where an intermediate building has to be demolished or rebuilt. Essentially, the scaffold will be built through the middle of the wedge between the adjacent buildings. In this type of shoring, it's also the wall plates are placed against the wall and secured to it. The horizontal strut is placed between the wall plate and supported by the system of needle and cleats. The inclined struts are supported by the needle at the top by straining piece at their feet. They may be single or double flying shore as shown in the figure. The flying shore consists of wall plates, struts, straining piece, horizontal shores, needles, cleats and wedges which shown in the image. Like inclined shore, in this system also the wall plate are secured against the wall using needle and the cleats. Points to be considered for a flying shore as follow. The center line of a flying shore and the strut and those of a wall should meet at the floor level of 2 buildings. The strut should preferably by incline at 45 degree. If the wall are quietly nearer to each other, distance up to 9 meters, single flying shore can be constructed. For a greater distance, double shore should be used. there should be a space of 3 to 4.5 centimeters along the two walls, and the horizontal rays should be introduced between the edges and source. This is the photograph showing the single flying shores. In that, in the middle there is a one flying shores is used for the supporting of the two adjacent structure, which is used up to the parallel distance between around 9 meters only. And this photograph showing the double flying shores, in that the two shores are used in the centers when the distance between two adjacent walls are more. So, we will use a double flying shores. Third type, dead shorings. This is also known as a vertical shorings. This type of shoring is used to support dead loads that are vertically downward. It is used to temporary supports like for wall, roof, floor, etc. by providing horizontal members known as needles. It consists of vertical props or a shore leg with a head plate, sole plate, and some means of adjustment for tightening and the ease the source. The usual arrangement is to use two sole legs connected over their heads by horizontal beam and the needles. The loads are transferred by the needles to the sole legs and hence down to a solid bearing surface. The dead shoring is used to build a lower parts of the defective load bearing walls depending on the existing foundation, which have there become unsafe or require the strengthening and the large opening in the existing wall for a door and windows. This type of shoring system is kept away from the wall for easy repair work. Dead shores are supported and anchor on the wall plates and the folding wedges. The factor to consider for dead shorings are as follow. The needle are spaced at 1 to 2 meters. The needle should be suitably raised. The folding wedge should be inserted in between two. It is preferred to use only single sole plate between the dead shores in a row. The floor should be suitably supported from inside. If the external walls are weak, rack shoring may be provided in addition to the dead shores. Following factors continue. Fix ceiling studs between the suitable heads and the sole plates to relieve the wall of a floor and the roof loads. Studs all windows opening within the vicinity of the shores. Cut hole through the ceiling and the floors for the shore legs. The shore should be removed only when new work gain the strength, but no earlier than the 7 days for a completion of a new work. The sequence of removal should be needle, shuttering form, opening, third the floor shuttering inside, and the fourth rack shores. This is the photograph of the dead shores. In that, in the section you can see one needle is inserted into the wall and which is supported by the dead shores and the shorings here, which is shown in the front elevations. Next topic, that is underpinning. What is underpinning? What is its purpose and application? So, first of all, definition. The underpinning is the process of strengthening the foundation of an existing structure by extending its depth or breadth. Purpose: to stabilize the foundation that have settled or are unstable, to increase the load bearing capacity of existing foundation to support the additional floors or loads, to repair foundation that have damaged by external factor like the subsidence, earthquake or a change in a soil condition, to construct the basement in the existing building. Application: the building expansion, renovation, structure repairs and in the area with a poor soil condition. This is the actual photograph of underpinning, in which you can see the foundation is raised, or you can use for the strengthening of existing foundations. So, underpinning is basically used for to raise the foundation. These are the design consideration. First, the soil investigation, conducting the geotechnical survey to understand the soil properties and the load bearing capacity. Structure assessment, evaluating the existing foundation and the structures to determine the best underpinning method. load distribution, ensuring the even loads distribution to avoid the further settlement or a damage. Safety measures, implementing the safety protocol during the excavation and the construction, monitoring structural movements and addressing any issue promptly. Types of works for a selection of underpinning methods: conversion works, protecting works, and another is miscellaneous works. So, first is a conversion works. The structure has to be converted to another function which require a stronger foundation compared to existing. Protection works, the following problem of a building have to undergo protection works. The existing foundation is not strong or stable. Nearby excavation would affect the soil supports existing footing. Stabilization of foundation soil to rest against the natural climatics, and requirement of basement below and already existing structures. Another type, that is remedial works. The following remedial works require underpinning. The mistake in initial foundation design cause subsidence of a structures, construction on existing structure than the building a new one. Structural necessity for underpinning. So, following are the reasons to suggest the underpinning methods for stabilizing of substructures. The degradation of a timber pile used as a foundation for a normal building would cause a settlement. The degradation of the structure is due to the water table fluctuation. Rise or lowering of a water table can cause a decrease of bearing capacity of soil, making a structure to settle. Structures that are built over a soil with a bearing capacity not suitable for a structure would cause a settlement. Methods of underpinning can be carried out by following 8 methods. First, mass concretic underpinning method, which is also known as a peat method. Second, underpinning by the cantilever method. Third, pier and the beam underpinning method. Fourth, pile method. Fifth, jack pile underpinning. Sixth, root pile or angle piling underpinning column. 7, pre-test method of underpinning, and 8, advanced method. The first method, the mass concrete underpinning method or a peat method. The mass concrete underpinning method is a traditional method of underpinning as it is followed by centuries. The method involves extending the old foundation till it reach a stable stratum. The soil below the existing foundation is excavated in a controlled manner through the stages or pins. When the suitable stratum is reached, the excavated is filled with a concrete and kept for curing before the next excavation start. In order to transfer the load from the old foundation to new foundation, new pins is provided by the means of placing dry sand cement bags. This is low cost method suitable for the shallow foundation. First of all, the hole is made in a wall for a divided section above the plinth level. The needle is inserted in the hole. The needle may be made of a material of a stout timber or a steel section. The bearing plates are placed above the needle to support the masonry above it. The supporting arrangement of a needle is made by the crib supports on the both sides of a wall and the jack screws. After the foundation, the pit is excavated up to the required level of a new foundation, then a new foundation is laid in the pit. When a new work of one section is over, work on two next section will taken up. That is, alternate section are underpinned in the first round and then remaining section are taken up. Figure show the sections here. Some important precautions should be taken during the work. Such racking shores are provided in a weak wall. Floor are also supported. Following points should be considered in the pit methods. Alternate section are taken up in the first round. The remaining intermediate section are then taken up only the section should take at a one time. It's better to start the work from the middle in the case of the long wall extended in the both direction. If a new foundation is deeper, a proper timbering of a foundation or trench may be done. When the foundation has gained the strength, then only all the arrangement like needle, beam, etc. should be removed slowly. The needle hole, etc. should be closed in the masonry using the cement mortar. This is the photograph of peat method for the underpinning. In that, first needle beam is provided in the wall above the plinth level, and below that we construct a new foundations. Second method of underpinning, that is underpinning by the cantilever needle beam method. If the foundation are to be extended only one side and the plan poses a stronger interior column, this method can be used for underpinning. The advantage and disadvantage of cantilever beams are as follow. This is the photograph of that. You can say at the one side foundation is extended or a new foundation is constructed. The advantage, first, faster than the traditional method, one side access only, high load carrying capacity. Disadvantage, digging the foundation uneconomically when existing foundation is deep. Constraint in access restriction, the use of needle beams. Third type of underpinning method, that is pier and beam underpinning method. It is also termed as a base and the beam method, which was implemented after the Second World War. This method progressed because the mass concrete method couldn't work well for the huge depth of foundation. It is found feasible for most of the ground condition. Here the reinforced concrete beam are placed to transfer the load to the mass concrete base or a piers. The size and the depth of the beam are based on the ground condition and apply loads. It is found economical for the deep depths shallower than the 6 meter. This is the photograph of beam and pier underpinning methods. Pile methods. In this, the pile method of underpinning, as name suggests, the piles are installed by a proper diving techniques along the both sides of the wall to the strengthen. The piling techniques normally used are borehole piles or under-rimmed pile are used. The utilized bore or a driven pile often combined with the concrete caps or beams that provide deep supports. Piles are driven at a regular interval. The piles are connected by the concrete or steel needles penetrate through the walls. These beams incidentally act as a pile cap used in a clay soil and the waterlogged soil area. We can use this method. This is the pile method of underpinning, in that the precast concrete piles are inserted and above that the pile cap or a pile beam is used, which will this beam will serve as a pile cap in futures. So, this is the pile methods for generally we use for the clay soil. Another fifth type, jack pile underpinning. Jack pile underpinning is done when the traditional underpinning is uneconomical because the depth of suitable bearing capacity of the subsoil. The main advantage of jack pile and the defining, it is a vibration free and flexible because the pile depth can be adjusted to the suitable subsoil encountered. In this system, the existing foundation is spanned over the head of the pipe caps, which are cast into the jack pile heads after the hydraulic jacks had been removed, that makes the foundation in the good condition. This is the typical jack section for the jack piles, in that the jacks, with the help of the jacks, hydraulic jacks, the piles are inserted here. This is the actual photograph of jack pile, in that the green color it is showing the arrangement for the jack pile pressures, and the below the hydraulic jacks the piles are inserted here. Another types of pile underpinning, that is roots or angle pilling methods. The roots or angle pilling method utilize the cutting edge concrete drilling technology to produce concrete, reducing the building expense and the time. Aligned pairs of reinforced concrete are often installed to driven at a right angle to another. The pre-drilling using the air flush precautions drill reinforce the brick wall without disturbing the subfloors. It might be challenged to install the angle piling inside the wall. As a result, they are stacked closely together to ensure their stability. These are the angle pile methods of underpinning, in that below the existing foundation the piles are inserted in the angle shapes here with some inclination to the grounds here. Another method, that is pre-placed method of underpinning. It is employed for the strip foundation. It can be used for a building with a 5 to 10 story. Hence, the subsoil is made compact and compressed in the new excavation level that gives the predetermined loads to the soil. This is done before underpinning is performed. Hence, reduce the noise and disruption that expected. These method cannot be implemented for the raft foundations. Last method, that is advanced techniques. This is further divided into 3 techniques, that is helical piers, micropiles and chemical groutings. So, helical piers, a screw-like steel shaft are driven into the ground. Micropiles, small diameters piles installed with a minimal disturbance. And chemical grout, the use of chemical to bind or solidify the soil. We will see one by one. Helical piers or screw-like steel shaft that are driven into the ground. Design criteria. The helical piers are made of a hollow steel shaft with a one or more helix shapes plates welded to the bottom ends. The helix designs allow the piers to penetrate deep into the ground without disturbing the soil. Installation. Helical piers are driven into the ground using the hydraulic equipment until they reach the desired depth and the load bearing capacity. The uses of helical piers. The helical piers are used for a deep foundation, underpinning and the structural support for the both permanent and the temporary structures. They are particularly used in the area with a weak or unstable soil, in a tight urban site with a limited equipment space. Histories. The helical piers are also known as screw piles. They have been used since 1800s. The drilling the holes using the temporarily or casting to the stabilized soils. Removing the drilling bites after the reach the desired depth, inserting the reinforce or a grout into the hole, removing the temporary casting, injection of additional grouts. The B types is micropiles. Since the micropiles are 6 to 12 inch in diameter, but they are small as 300 mm also. Installation. The micropile installed by drilling the holes, placing reinforcement and grout inside, and then remove the temporary casting and injecting the more grout. Uses. The micropile can be used for reinforce existing foundation or construct a new one in challenging the ground condition. They can be also be used to underpin area with a large boulder in the subsurface. Benefits. The micropiles are versatile and can be installed in variety of soil types and environment. They can also carry high loads capacities and despite their small size. Other names, micropiles are also known as mini piles, pin piles and root piles also. 7 types, that is a chemical grouting. The chemical grouting is the types of permeation grouting that involve the use of chemical substance to improve the soil structures and control the water flow. It is also used to stabilize the granule soils by permitting the space between the soil particle, binding them together and also increase the soil's bearing capacity. The chemical grouting is form a permeation grouting. Solution grouts that are commonly used include acrylamides, polyetherines, acrylites, epoxy and the sodium silicate. These are the most types of the chemical grouting, structural and the water control. Now precaution measures in underpinnings. The plan to a groundwater inflow, make underground or overhead service. Before starting the work, ensure that the location of underground and overhead service is known and marked. Provide a protective equipment, ensure the worker have a suitable protective clothes and equipment such as safety harness, helmets, gloves and goggles. Provide adequate shorings, ensure that the trench have adequate batten and the shorings. Another precaution, provide adequate ventilation, ensure that the confined space have a adequate ventilation. Have engineers drawing and procedures development of a underpinning sequences. Consider the potential hazards. Consider the potential hazards such as underpinning, collapse, trench collapse, fall into excavation, underground service, contamination and the hazardous substance. Advantage of underpinning. The underpinning is good because it strengthens the foundation and protect it from all kind of disaster. With underpinning, you can get more light into the building, add new room or office to the building and add more windows and doors so that the natural lights can get in. By underpinning your basement, you can get to your home plumbing, insulations and wiring to see if they need to be fixed. Another advantage, one great things about the underpinning is that it's raise the value of your home. If you want to sell your home in the future, it will worth more and give you a good return if a well built and have finished underpinning. Underpinning is a great way to add more space to the structure in a way that costs less and causing a less trouble. Buying a new house could be expensive if you want more space, but underpinning can save you at that money. Also, you won't have to pay for the expensive repair down the roads. Disadvantage, the nature of underlying foundation method is expensive. When unstable and the floor ground, it's exceeding the challenging to underpinning buildings. On the work site, the significant volume of excavated material is to be dumped during the excavation. Now come to the summary. When the building walls are swelling out or cracks are result unequal settlement of a foundation, shorings are employed to stabilize the structure. It is employed when they demolish a building, neighboring buildings or expanding the existing opening in the walls. And underpinning is a technique used to reinforce and restore the foundation of a building. By underpinning, existing building and the infrastructure can have their weak foundation strengthened. One such method of adding the permanent and temporary support to the existing base to increase the depth and the load capacity. All over we have studied the types, precaution, design consideration, advantage, disadvantage of shoring and underpinning. Thank you.